one of the things you're not supposed to do when you meet the Queen, you're not supposed to stick out your hand. So when she came along, I decided that I was going to just stick out my hand. So I stuck out my hand to shake her hand. Gosh, how many people got sacked? About 12?
So you got a lot of enemies out there now.
Haven't we all? So there was 7 of us, and we did a continuous rap for the Guinness World Record. So I had a team with me, but what I started realizing was I was doing all the heavy lifting and it was starting to break my back.
Yeah, you hear that, cameraman?
And there was a security there and barriers. And I went up to security, I said, excuse me, what's that line for? And they said, oh, that's the line for the choreographers. You stay over there. In other words, do not take advice from everybody.
My guest today is a world record holder, dancer, rapper, DJ, author, teacher, children's home manager, and cryptocurrency consultant. His story is 40 years deep and his achievements to be envied. Before we get into it, please subscribe to the channel, click the bell to receive the notifications, like, share, and get involved in the comments section below. On the 521 Sofa Chat today, we have Colin, aka Tuway, aka DJ Tuscanny. What's going on, bro? How you doing?
Very good, Blade. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me here. Sounds like you was rapping. And you know I love your rapping. So thank you very much for the intro. I'm here. It's been a long time coming. I remember watching your video of when you was actually creating, you know, the fast forward video that you did on the floor, and to actually be here now and see it in the flesh, it's just like, you know what I mean, hats off, serious congratulations to you, M521.
No, I appreciate that, man, and I know you were there from the get-go. First of all, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, so let's start from, I suppose start from where I first got into dance, really, because it all really starts with dance. And that kind of really starts with Saturday Night Fever, John Travolta. That's when I really started dancing. So that's most probably late 70s. That's when I really started to dance. Then I went into the funk days, and then I was like dancing funk. That's when I learned puppet and all that kind of stuff. Then I was like going into the funk. That's like early 80s. And then obviously it came to 1982 when it came into the robotics, and that's when I really started getting into dance. And I think the first thing when I was really on TED was 1982, which was Sunrise Festival, which was on ITV. That was Melvin Bragg. I was going to Ernest Bevins School. You had someone up here, my good friend Colt, who was talking about Mr. Cooper. I also was at Ernest Bevin, but I'm quite a few years older than Colt. So we did Sunrise Festival 1982. God, I must have been 14, and we won. That was on ITV. This was pre-b-boying and breaking and really hip-hop, for me anyway.
I'm amazed how many people have come from that school that have gone on to do things.
I tell you something, see Jimmy White, when I was in the first year of school, he was in the 5th year. So I remember going to Zan's, which is in Tooting Broadway, and watching him play pool. And also there's another guy that comes from that you don't know, well, 2 other people, UK Apache, he used to be in my class. Yeah. So we used to MC together. And also K2 Family, Winston Brown, like Ayo, following the bouncing flow, Geronimo. All of them, they come from my school as well. So me and Winston Brown, this is pre the body popping and all of that. This is still 1981. I used to do sound system.
Okay.
So I used to be a ragga chatter with Winston Brown and with Wahab, UK Apache. So I used to be in a sound called Black Dragon. He was in a sound, UK Apache, called Sophisticated Gents. And Winston Brown was in a sound called Magnum Junior, which I went on to join as well. So that was kind of the sound system day. So
you mentioned Jimmy White.
Ernest Bevin School he was in. I was in Ernest Bevin, UK Apache, Brown, and Colt, Nicholas, also known as Jacob, quite a lot of other people. Crash, the famous graffiti artist, he was in my school as well. He was in my year, and I couldn't.
And obviously TLP1 as well.
Do you know the weird thing about that, right? Because that whole thing around him passing away, right, which is very sad. I didn't really know Oko from school. It was his younger brother, who knows a friend of mine, that one day I met him. And he comes up to me and he goes, "Oh my God, you're Colin, used to go in Bevan." And I was like, "Yeah, who are you?" So he was like, "Oh, you might know this crew that I'm in." He goes, "This little crew is called Hard Noise." And I was like, "Oh my God, of course I know Hard Noise." And he goes, "You know us?" I said, "Yeah, you, AJ. And he goes, but I remember you at school when you guys did Summer Arts Festival." And the other thing was I don't even like saying this, but I won the Metropolitan Police disco dancing competition. This is 1981 or 82. So he remembers all of that stuff and he was saying it. And at that particular time, this is when I was starting Each Teach Radio, I was supposed to interview him. Then I lost contact with him and then that was it. I don't know what happened to him. Then obviously I heard the information that he had passed away, which I passed it on to quite a few people, you and AJ and quite a few people. And I didn't realize that nobody didn't know. So it's very sad, very sad. But I didn't realise how much of an impact that was going to have on everybody. I realised how big Hard Noise was because I remember watching some of the B-Boy Championships, the Booty one, 95, when I went there, and they used that track from Hard Noise, Untitled. And I remember being there going, "Oh my God, that's UK people." And I'm in Germany, Hanover. That's when I met Hooch and we went over as Born to Rock. Peace out to my people, Born to Rock. And we went out there for that. But yeah, they used their track.
Let's move on from that to a book called Breakdance, You Can Do It.
That came about from us winning the Summer Arts Festival, which was in 1982. And that was from the guy that put together his name is...
The writers, I believe, were Colin and Venol.
Colin, yeah. No.
So it's not you.
No, so that's not me. For many years, I used to pretend. People used to say, "You're in that book." And I used to say, "Yeah, I'm in that book." They said, "Ah, yeah." And then months later, I realised that people thought that the Colin on the front of the book was me, Colin. But it wasn't me. Colin was... Well, Venel was the one with the wet look and Colin was the other guy. But I went on to know Venel really, really well. But we got to be in that book from being the winners of the Metropolitan Police Disco Dance Competition and the Metropolitan Police Dance Competition and Summer Arts Festival on ITV, and then also the big massive competition, the ACYC, Association of Combined Youth Clubs competition, which we won. So then when the book was coming out, and in that book, funny enough, you got lots of people that was in it. Bionic from London Posse's in that. Basil Pepperpot is in there. So those guys were called SAS. Big Ted was in it, allegedly, because at the back of the book, he's got his title. I didn't actually see him, but I wouldn't question whether he was in it. And quite a few other people, Chiddy, Clive Taylor, Bad Boy Dancer. So there was a lot of people that was in it early days of that book. Yeah, most probably one of the first books. Not the first book.
Even if it wasn't the first, it's still of importance.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
do you want to explain the importance of that?
What happens with things like that, right, is that when it's early doors, a lot of people, if you think about that book, I was actually 15 in that book. So now, imagine this, I'm in my 50s, right? And so that's like a long time ago. And Bionic, who went on to do massive things, Basil, lots of people have gone on to do lots of things. And I think it's just really important that, especially like now we're into 50 years of hip hop, it's just important that we embrace it and not kind of go, who was first, who was second, who done this, who was that. We're all grown men now. So I just think what we did, we did some real groundbreaking stuff, and just to really embrace what we did. And in a historical context, not as a kind of way to point fingers at who did what and who didn't do what. So
I think at this point, I'd like to say, if everyone was just to hug it out, get along, we would achieve a lot more.
Absolutely. The reason why I would most probably say that that's not really possible, right? Because people are at different points in their life. Some people have gone through a hell of a lot of trauma So one of the things I do as well is I work in a residential children's home, right? And I've worked with young people all their life. And one of the things is that we use a process called PI, which is called psychologically informed environments. And what it does is it deals with a lot of compound trauma. Compound trauma is when something happens to you and then something else happens to you and you're not really dealing with whatever the issue is. If you think about a lot of the stuff, a lot of the pioneer and breakthrough stuff that a lot of the early doors pioneers did that have not really got no credit for it, and then you've got a lot of these younger guys that come through, that's quite traumatic for the whole of the hip hop scene to actually really see, which is quite, again, I will say, traumatic. So you can't just then hug it out and just, because people have got to deal with their trauma and what happened to them, the credit that they have not been given and credit that other people have given in different ways. So it's not really going to be possible for everyone to hug it out because people have got different things they need to go through. Some people need counseling, some people need therapy, some people need to just get a life, some people need to just, there's so many different things that need to happen because of that. That's really it. So I don't know if it's possible for everyone to hug out personally. You know, there's lots of people trying to do certain things. You've got, 279 now is coming back and he's doing his flavour of the month monthly. You've got, respected numbers. You've got Ricky Rock, who's about to do Hip Hop Alliance. You've got those Born to Rock guys who've most probably been running the longest breakdance class in England. Probably, I'm not saying it is, in case anyone wants to jump on me, right? But it's probably one of them, over 30 years continuously. Then you've got the other guys, then the other day you've got Isaac from Imperial Steps, who had the 20-year anniversary of them doing their breakdance class and stuff like that. So there's a lot of people doing a lot of stuff. And then you go to next level, you've got Hooch doing his breakdance championships, which has been going on from 1995, 6, from when I first met him in Germany.
Who is the most famous person you've ever met?
Oh, the most famous person I've ever met.
Well, you've been on a crazy journey and you've met a lot of famous people. You've worked with a lot of famous people. So who is the most famous?
I'd have to say the Queen, twice. So we met her for the Children's Royal Variety Show. So I met her then, shook her hand and all that. And then, I'm not, because there's a whole thing around the empire and that kind of stuff. And I was quite young when I met her. So yeah, and then she came to our school and I met her again. So she's the most notoriety known individual that I've ever met, for sure. I mean, there's no one, yeah.
After seeing what you lot were doing, did she try and break dance?
Definitely not. And you know the weird thing, right, is that I'll never forget when I first met her. This is at Royal Albert Hall. We had just finished doing the TV show and they gave us some instructions about what you're not supposed to do when you meet the Queen. And one of the things you're not supposed to do when you meet the Queen, you're not supposed to stick out your hand. So when she came along, I decided that I was going to just stick out my hand. So I stuck out my hand to shake her hand and she shook it. And I always remember that. I don't know. But it's interesting, right? Because I remember, Yeah, I remember when they offered John Z his
MBE, or was it OBE?
MBE.
MBE.
To be or not to MBE. Yeah, and the radical social commentator within him didn't allow him to take it. So I remember having a conversation with him about that, and most probably a lot of other people's. And it's quite interesting that when you're 14 or 15, how you would want to meet the Queen. She was the biggest thing then. But now, later on in life, a friend of mine, I'd like to call John Z, someone who I highly rate, when he got the MBE, because we did the remake of Lyrical Theatre at Sadler's Wells 2015, 7 years ago. We originally did it in 1997, and then, he originally started it in 95, I joined it in 97, we toured and stuff. But just to think that all that work he's done, he was going to get MBE, and he didn't take it. So I remember questioning, thinking, you should actually take it, because you could actually use that to further the confines and the bounds and ends of what his works is doing. But more respect to him, he didn't take it, and he made a theatre show from it. So yeah, that's attached to the most notoriety known person I've ever met. But if you're going to say who's the most known person that I've worked with, would most probably be George Michael.
If you put yourself in John's situation, which I respect a lot for what he done anyway, and like you, you know, I have a lot of high praise for Johnsy. He's done a lot, and he's still doing a lot. Would you have taken the MBE if you were offered it?
No.
Would you have taken it when you were 14?
Yes.
Okay.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
So explain the difference.
If I can look, because the 14-year-old that I know now didn't really know enough about history and in fact, when I was 16, I wrote a poem which they used in school. Do you want me to do the poem?
Go ahead.
It goes like this. Dealing with dope fact, my story's begun. Here's some history about the Caribbean. Kick off with the slave trade abolition. Now, Spain signed a treaty with Great Britain to end the slave trade in 1821. The day to come, the battle was done. At the end, to black people, justice was done. But the end of the slave trade caused a few problems. Here's a few that I think I ought to mention. It's about the ending of human agitation and the ending of the black workforce retention. Now, a name to remember is Henry Wilberforce, a politician, but then who helped to alter the course. The course was hard like running up a hill. To make slave trade a felony and make it a bill, I've got to chill ill, and my name's Colin Will, back then it was, and over this subject I'm ready to die and to kill. Now, slavery was ended in 1833. Did you know there's a difference between slave trade and slavery? Now, slavery is the humans selling humans for money. Slavery is humans working by force for free. So I present my philosophy, my rules and my policy definitely aimed at the ethnic minority. St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Barbados. If you don't know your roots, I don't know what to make of you. Now, I actually wrote that when I was 16. Thank you, right? So I actually wrote that when I was, I mean, I feel a bit embarrassed rapping in front of you, but you know, it's poetry, right? But I actually wrote that when I was 16. At that stage, that's when I started to study about history, the empire, slavery, how it happened. Yeah, so would I have done it at 14? Would I have taken it? Yes, but 16, 17, definitely wouldn't have.
Moving on to your Summer Arts Festival. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I refer to my good old friend Colt. So he was at the school at the same time as me, but he's quite a bit younger than me. So I met Mr. Cooper. They had a dance group they formed, which was about 5 different people. It was Valentine, Chidi, Aston, Colin Moore, Charlie Adewale. And I wasn't actually in the group. But at that stage, we was about 14. They formed a crew. I was already dancing, and I went to the music room and I spoke to Mr. Cooper, really nice guy, and he told me that I couldn't be in the dance group because what had actually happened was that they'd already formed the group. So I must have said to him, I'm going to go to the group, ask to be in it, and if I can be in it, fair enough. When I went there, they said I had to battle them. So I battled them, the rest is history. So I was in the dance crew, Summer Arts Festival. We went into, it was ITV, which Lee Rose always he doesn't always, but he's commentated on that. And he was actually in that competition as well. You had 4 different sections and you had all the schools in England that were in it. So you had to have music, dance and art. So as a school, we went in for it as music. And the guy that was the creative director, 15, his name is, God, I can't remember his name now. He's going to kill me. Anyway, they know who they was. And they did drums, music and singing. We did the dance and it was points. So each group you had out of 100 and the group that got the most points won. And then when I say the most points, it was each area and then the finalists went on ITV. So we went on ITV, this is 1983, 2, and we won the TV competition. And from that, we got to meet Rocksteady. And I tell you when the timing is when Rocksteady were doing their show at Olympia when they first came over. So this is pre-B-boying, because we was in this competition just doing robot. There was no body popping at all, it was just robotics.
While you were saying that, I was just getting this vision of like, you know, your involvement in the arts and creativity. And I'd like to find out from you about, for someone that comes from where you come from, because obviously I come from a similar background where I come from, the importance of the arts, what it enabled us to do, what it stopped us from doing. We could have been out there criminal activity every day.
Well, it's interesting you say that because when I was young, I got into a lot of trouble. I was actually suspended from school. I started working with young people, most probably from the age of when I was about 16, 17, most probably from about 10 to about 13, 14, I got into a lot of trouble. And I'm not going to start saying all the stuff I did because I don't want to glorify it. And I know there's certain people that talk about certain things that they did involved in drug selling, glue sniffing, all this kind
And they glamorize it as well.
I don't want to, but I can tell you, all I will say is I got into a lot of trouble. And by the time I was 16, I decided to turn it all around and I was working with young people. I started and I got community service. And from that, I started teaching dance at my local youth club, which was St Boniface Youth Club in Tooting. And I started teaching dance there and I taught dance up to whenever, God, into my 30s. And that turned around my life. So in regards to the arts, I think it changes a lot of perspectives for a lot of people. Because for me, it showed me a way of, it made me realise that academia at that particular time wasn't for me. But in regards to, I suppose, creativity, creating something from nothing, because I just didn't dance. I was MCing, I was acting, I was doing a lot of those things and I was always praised highly for that. But in school, I wasn't praised highly for my academia, for English, maths and that kind of stuff at school. So I think it's really important, and it's even important now because there's a guy, his name is Milk Tray. He's from Croydon. He does DJ lessons. He's now sponsored by Amazon and sponsored by this, and he's got 200k in, and he's doing lots of big, and it's kind of, so the arts are really important when you can use it in the right way.
And is that one of the reasons why you went into what you're doing with like the children's homes management?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first children's home I started working in, I think I was about 19 or 20. And when I was doing that, what I found is that I brought all of the things that I'd learned from my hip hop brothers and sisters, dance, rap. So when I went into one particular home, I was teaching them dance, I was teaching them MCing, I was teaching them rapping, DJing especially, not graffiti because that's the one area that I really do lack in. But all of the other disciplines I used to teach them, and I used to find that some of them would really embrace it and you could really divert them certain types of behavior all the time, and I was able to reach them. And I think because I was actually still within it. So when I was working, funny enough, when I was actually touring with John Z at the particular time doing lyrical theatre at the start, I was actually working in my children's home. So sometimes we'd go away, I don't know, whether we'd go Swindon or Austria or whatever country we'd go, and then I'd come back and I'd be working with the residents of my children's home. And that time I was actually doing these arts, professional dance and whatever as a profession, but also in residential children's home. So one of the times I think I did the opening sequence for a TV program, Get With It. Anyway, some TV program, and the children got to see. When I say children, we're talking 16, 17. We're not talking like little ones. Talking 16, 17, rude boy, want to be in gangs and all that kind of stuff. And they used to always question to say, but you're doing that and you're busy touring and you still want to work with us. And I used to try and explain to them, my early days, I used to get into a lot of trouble.
Obviously, if you've had kids, you'll understand this as well. It's like they seem to think that they're going through something new,
Exactly.
not realizing that we've already been there and you
Exactly.
can learn from us. But at the same time, we can learn a lot from them too. So how did that change the respect factor for you when they saw that you were already doing stuff and you didn't need to be there, but you were there?
Do you know what it is? I think this is the one thing which I always try and, because I actually mentor a lot of people that want to work with young people. I don't think it actually changes it when they hear that you are just doing, they won't just respect you because you're a rapper or a dancer. they respect you because you want to engage with them in doing it. So a typical example is about when you introduced as the world record holder. So there was 7 of us, and we did a continuous rap for the Guinness World Record. So I went to them and I said, and these were particular young people that were really, really, really bad and getting into a lot of trouble. And instead of me just organise it for them, I actually went to them and I said, I'm going to be part of it. I remember, do you remember Roy Castle? You want to be a record breaker? So when they was doing it, I thought, I want to do that. So I think it's actually not just you working with the young people saying that you was once bad or you used to do this. I think it's actually when they see that you will actually engage with them and do whatever they're doing. One of my ethos is whenever I work with young people, whatever they're doing, I do. So that's the main thing. I don't say one thing and do another. So if we're doing a world record for rap, I rap. I rapped with them. We got numbers to DJ. So he DJ'd for the world record, but I was with them when we was doing interviews and stuff like that. When we was doing basketball competitions, I would enter. So I think that's what the difference is actually engaging with. I think a lot of people sometimes want to go and work with young people, but they have the idea, because they've been there, done the t-shirt, they just want to turn around and say, I've done this, I've done that. Don't worry. No, you've got to be in it with them because they respect that. That's called working as a therapeutic community. This world record was 2013 for the longest continuous rap.
And how long was the rap?
10 hours and 2 minutes, which has now been broken.
Oh, serious?
Yeah, multiple times.
Just for the record, it wasn't any pre-written, it was just freestyle all the way.
Freestyle, all the way through. 2 people that were supposed to be involved. JJ Stars, aka Scaramanga, he was supposed to be in it, and also Swiss from So Solid, he was supposed to be in it. Both of them 2 couldn't end up doing, but we had about 6 months to a year of practicing for that. And what I used to do was in the youth club, I used to get 4 crates, and all of the young people, which I did as well, used to have to get 4 of the crates, and people used to have to shout out, you know, like what Supernatural does?
Yeah.
When you have to throw things to him. So we practiced for 6, 7, 8 months of doing that. So I did that, all the young people did that to practice their freestyling. It was so funny. I still got all the videos of us practicing for that. So by the end, they was all confident freestylers. Yeah. Not all good. I'm even saw some of them would say they're not.
It's always going to be down to opinion, isn't it?
Exactly. But it was all confident freestylers to actually do it. So we just passed around the mic, and 10 hours, 2 minutes. It's still up on YouTube now.
So what was it like training with these guys?
It was really interesting because my background is not really rap. It's more dance and DJing. But I do like to rap. And, you know, so I just found it. I like to challenge myself. So I took it that I was a young person, that I was doing it with them. So, okay, so what was it really like? For me personally, it was quite easy because I'm quite disciplined. My approach to it was practice every day. You know, I mean, obviously I'm not going to get up to your standard.
I'm glad you know that.
Yeah, of course, I know that. But at the end of the day, to do a world record, you don't need to be at the high standard. And as you know, opinions are like arses, right? Yeah?
But you know, when
everybody's
I said it's not an opinion, it's fact, right?
Yeah,
okay, well, just so we're clear.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with that. Because that would be like you arguing about you know, me and you being in battle.
Yeah,
I'd love a battle with you.
Well, the only thing you'll get out of me in a battle is a belly spin.
That'd be funny. I'd like to see that. But yeah, I think it was inspiring to do that, not to work with them, not just for them, but for myself as well. Just to show myself that, you know, you're not past it. You can still, you know, push through to accomplish whatever goal you want to do.
Most people recognize you for your dancing. Right? Anyone who knows you more for the dancing, because you haven't really put the rapping out there.
No.
You haven't even put the DJing out there in the same way. Yeah. So for anyone who goes, what are you doing rapping? You shouldn't be rapping. What have you got to say to them?
You know something, I think many years ago, I used to have a lot to say to people like that, but I don't really have anything to say. Okay, so I'll give you a classic example, right? Because so R.I.P. my good friend, right, Ty, who passed away, right? So at this particular time, when Ty Rodney P, respect Rodney, respect
Black Twang.
Black Twang as well. No, I just always think about Ty. But anyway, about 3 months before Ty passed, one of the tracks that he did, I freestyled over it, right? And then I sent it to Ty. And Ty come back, because I know Ty from young, when he used to be in a group called Point Blank with Balmore, big up Balmore, and Daniel Azor. They was in a group called Point Blank, and Ty was a dancer there. And I used to kind of dance, well, I didn't dance, I kind of semi-managed them, really. So that's where I know Ty from. So I was quite close with him. Even though he was distant because he was doing his thing, we had that synergy. So I sent that to Ty. Ty liked it. And for me, what it is that you got to be careful who you listen to. That's the only thing I would say to, because there's a lot of people that when you're doing stuff, not because of people don't like you or whatever, it's just because of traumas that other people's been through, that they will perpetuate that and put that upon you. So now what I do is anything I'm going to do, I ask specific people's opinions that I trust, and I go through on that. So I know that when I did a record, Don't Stay in Your Lane, I done it, I pushed it out, I released it. I don't need it to go to all of my community or people I know. It was for a specific thing for me. I've put it on certain things. I'm going to be releasing it on. So I don't really mind what people think. So I don't.
And you remember we had a conversation about this.
Yes.
And I gave you a piece of advice.
Absolutely.
What was that piece of advice?
See, yeah. So, to go back, when I wanted to be a specific type of rapper. So when I wanted to release the record, I wanted to be able to go, all that kind of real complicated stuff. So when I sent it to you, I was hoping that you was going to go, right, Colin, the way you do it was like this. And what you basically said to me and someone else, right, was basically say, just be you. And I was thinking, but is that enough to be me? And what I realized was, this is the work that I do with a lot of the young people all through my life. I'm always telling them, be you, don't try and be someone else. And that's what you kind of reiterated to me, that Colin, just do you, do yourself. So I ended up doing the record, really, and then that was when I showed it to Ty. When Ty heard it, Ty was like, that's fine, he liked it.
I think if you start trying to impress everybody, you basically screw yourself up.
Absolutely.
Just do you, wherever you're comfortable, and find your lane, and then work on building the awareness for that lane.
It's interesting you say, because remember, the record that I done was Don't Stay in Your Lane. And that was because I find that, we have a birthright to do whatever we want to do.
I didn't say you had to stay in your lane.
I know that.
I said find your lane.
Your
Your
lane
lane can be multiple lanes.
Amen.
You just need to find what your lane is. Agreed. No one said stay in your lane.
No, but what I'm saying is when you try and come out of your lane, you try to do other things, people will tell you to stay in your lane. That's my point. So what I'm saying to people, don't stay in your lane. It's your birthright to try. You doesn't mean you're going to get to the top epsilons of whatever you're trying to do, but it's your birthright to try anything you want. So that's the advice that I give to people.
Okay, so on this part, I need you to be very careful with your dates.
Okay.
All right? So I think once upon a time, you said to me, and I'm probably joking here, but I'll say it anyway, you were in Covent Garden before Covent Garden was even built.
No. That's no.
I'm joking. As I said, I'm joking. But yeah, so yeah, tell us about your
my experience of Covent Garden. Okay, so was I the first that went to Covent Garden? Definitely not. I don't even want that kind of title. But was I one of the first people to go there? It depends what you mean one of the first. I mean, I started going to Covent Garden and busking. I think that I went to Covent Garden myself. I know specifically the reason why I used to go. So I used to busk with with Milton. Milton went on to be in London All Stars. So when I used to busk at Covent Garden regular, I used to busk with Milton. Didn't see Milton for some time, and then afterwards I heard he was in London All Stars. So this is my experience. So when I used to go, I used to busk with someone called Chidi, Shuffle Master. So when we used to go up there, we used to go strictly And this is why I always say, because some people used to go there to battle. Some people used to go up there for brotherhood and friendship. And some people used to go up there to make money, right? And I went up there to make money, right? I've got no shame admitting it. I always say that. And that's how comes I went on to be a professional dancer, not really kind of just doing it with the guys, because I was in a crew. And then when I said I wanted to turn professional, we actually got Richie Rich to actually manage us. We approached Richie Rich to manage us when I met him at Kisses. And I asked him, with the rest of my crew, I said, we want you to be our manager. So my experience of Covent Garden goes like this, really. I went there, I remember seeing Dr. Stu there. I remember seeing lots of people there. I remember busking with Hulk as well, from Ozzy's crew. I remember seeing loads of people. So, yeah, and it was early doors, and we're talking 83, 84. And by the time 85 came, I was like professionally dancing. So I didn't really go Covent Garden for a whole heap of time. Most probably 83, 84.
To validate this, I want an exact day, date, time. I want it all.
I haven't got exact.
I can tell you when it was. It was August the 2nd, 1982, and it was on a Saturday afternoon, and it was at 14:23.
If you say so. Do you know the thing about the dates and times? For me personally, they're not really that important for me. I know I was there early doors.
And you don't need to validate that to nobody. You don't need to justify that to nobody.
I don't justify
Like,
that. Because the reason why I don't justify it is because if anyone ever questions the validity, which people have a right to, is I've got evidence of things that I've done and things I've captured. Still got my trophy of 1984 and this and that, and I've got pictures of me at Covent Garden in 1983 and 1984, me and Shuffle Master.
But even if you hadn't, what about, I mean, there's loads of people that
Well, if
never
you
made
haven't,
it.
then you can't prove it.
Well, but on top of that, it doesn't mean that you weren't involved in hip hop, because there was people that were in Manchester, wherever else, doing their thing. So,
of course not.
You know, they were just as important.
Well, you see now, here's the story. I still remember, and I've got the newspaper clipping of that competition that we was in, and the competition was at Hammersmith Palais, and it was lots of different crews in it, and we, as TNT, that was the crew then, we actually came, we came third, but the winners of the competition was Street Machine. Oh. Street Machine, AKA, what's the little guy's name? I should forget his name. Evo. So Evo was in Street Machine and Jason Orange, and I'll never forget that they won that competition, because they wasn't supposed to win that competition. And then you had the guys, Rock City, that I think they come second.
Was that Nottingham?
They're from Nottingham. There was lots of people in that competition. So yeah, each area had their thing going on. And as far as I'm concerned, from my perspective, when Rocksteady came over and did their tour, they just didn't come to Olympia. They went all around the country. And so everyone roughly got it at the same time. So everybody was doing their thing. So, you know, you got people in their perception thinking that London is the centre, which it kind of, when you think of the individuals that came out of it, that's why it's kind of seen as the centre, as the Mecca. But you've got other areas that had significant, like you think of Second to None, and the people that came out of there is significant. When you think of Rock City, when you think of Smack 19, when you think of all the different, and I'm just thinking about dance, because that's what I know about. But when you start thinking about rappers, which maybe you might know about, I don't really know about rap. And then when you start talking about graffiti, it's going to be the same for all of the different contexts. When you think of it contextually in regards to who came first.
And just because you don't know of somebody doesn't mean they didn't get involved. Do you know what I mean? So
exactly.
It doesn't matter. What's important is that we all contributed in some way, and what we see now that's expanded to the huge business that it is all came from somewhere, and that somewhere just happened to be us.
Exactly.
You know, and I'm sure there was people before us as well.
Of course.
Jamiroquai. What's your connection with Jamiroquai?
There's a video with Jamiroquai and M-Beat, and I choreographed that video, and I was in.
You
the video.
choreographed, not just danced in it.
Yeah, I choreographed the video.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So you weren't in it, but you choreographed
I was in it and I
and
choreographed it. Yeah.
Wow, show off.
No, just keep in mind, right? At that particular time, I was actually doing this stuff as a profession. I wasn't doing it like just, messing about. I was doing it as a profession. I had an accountant, I had an agent, I had a manager. So I was doing it properly. I didn't do really anything else other than that.
Was it the MB remix? Do you know where you're coming from?
I almost forgot what it was called. Yeah, do you know where you're coming from? Yeah. And when you see it, it's only me in it. But when he's dancing, I was choreographing him. I was saying to do, which I didn't, lots of people know this, I didn't realise he was a popper. I didn't realise that he was a dancer before. So he was saying what kind of move do you think I should do and all that. So when he's dancing, I'm choreographing that as well. So I'm choreographing my bit. And it's only, if you watch the video, it's just me, him and MB in the video.
What was it like to work with?
Nice guy, knows his hip hop. I remember talking to him about Covent Days and Poppin' and Richie Rich and, all of those that, and Sidewalk, which he knew about.
Mad.
Big respect, Dolby, right? Sidewalk and lots of different things in regards to early hip hop, which he seemed to know.
And Richie Rich. How important was Richie Rich to the scene?
So to me, right, Richie Rich obviously was in the foundation crew that, and I won't say the first, right? I would say one of the first, because they might have been the first, I'm not sure, but definitely one of the foundation crews. And then you had the video, which you saw them and Micron. This is very early, this is 83, right? And so he did that. So he laid the foundation with all of the people from the crew. Michael Forsyth, Richie Rich, Dolby D, and a few others I can't remember. And the girl, I can't remember. Anyway, so they laid down the foundation. But then afterwards, he went on to be a DJ. So that was really, really important. And not only a good DJ, but an amazing DJ, an amazing scratch DJ. I remember, and then he did electro rock, where he was scratching him. Anyway, and lots of other people. But then afterwards, he was a producer working for G Street. Now, for me, this is why it's quite important, why he's such a significant person. Because for me, he came to me and he was the one that got me doing lots of choreography. So his first album, Feel It, so he got me to choreograph his first album, where I was choreographing 4 of the tracks. And then he introduced me to the people from G Street.
So when you say choreograph, are you talking about the music or dancing for the videos and stuff?
I'm talking about getting the dancers.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you weren't using the word choreograph in the wrong context.
Yeah. No, choreographing the dancers, not in regards to like the production side of the film, just the dancing. And then he introduced me to some of the people in G Street, and then he introduced me to Polydor Records, and that's how comes I got to work with Stock Aitken and Waterman and those guys, and we going at their big office. I was working.
Was that in Elephant?
That's in Elephant.
Yeah.
So I was working. I used to go in the office, and Vicky Lee, Pac 5, Stanton 6, all of their real pop groups. I was doing all the choreography for all of that as well. So, but like I told you, when I was, and that's all really from Richie Rich. So Richie Rich is just not just, people think of him as just Sidewalk. Sidewalk was the start for him. Then he laid the foundation as a massive DJ, massive producer, and then went on to do his own career and was pulling strings for a lot of other people to do things. So
sounds like he was managing you.
He was managing us. Yeah.
Are you joking?
No, seriously, he was. So when we formed, I thought I said this. So when we formed TNT Rockers, I approached Richie Rich at Kisses. This is early. This must be about 86. I approached him. There was all of us there. I told them that we was going to approach him, and he was our manager as TNT.
Wow. So multi-talented.
He was like doing a lot of things for a lot of people, and no one's seen him for a long time. The last time I saw him, he was like a Jehovah's Witness, but I think he became quite disillusioned with.
Who doesn't?
Well, yeah. Hey, you're right.
You also had an involvement with Beverly Knight, and I believe you choreographed a video for her as well.
You know, so I used the story of how I got to do the Beverly Night video from when I talked to young people about believing themselves. So I went to that audition. There was two lines, one line, and I always say, and I use this analogy for life. There was one line I went with Mo Ideas, Mark, Abstract, RPM dancers, Little Tim, one of the hardest dancers working out there at the moment, still hardcore working. And I can't remember, it was about five of us, and there was one really long line of people, like there was about 50 people all going for the choreography, and then there was a line on that side which had about 3-4 people, and there was a security there and barriers, and I went up to security, I said, excuse me, what's that line for? And they said, oh, that's the line for the choreographers, you stay over there. That's what I'll never forget. And I was thinking, so I went to them, I said, guys, I think we should get in the other line. They was like, no, let's just stay in this line. So I remember just thinking to myself, nah. So I just went into the other line, I just went in there. So when I got to there was about 6 or 7 people there in the line, a bit like, you know, auditioning for X Factor or something like that was there. Said, yeah, you know, can you, you know, give us your ideas for Beverly's video? So I was like, I hadn't seen it. So I was like, could you play it? Oh, you haven't seen it? I was like, oh my God. I was like, so they had the video and they played this, man. So I went on to say, well, my idea was to get like a battle scene, 2 lots of battlers. I think you should get one guy versus like two girls, and it should go like that, and then other people dancing in it. And when you see the video, they took my idea and then I choreographed the routine for it. So it was just like, it was like brilliant. And I got,
So it's like you didn't even have to think out of the box. It's what you did anyway.
exactly. So they did that, and you know, I got paid very handsomely for that. And from that, that's how I got a lot of the other stuff.
How did that feel?
Do you know, at the time, it didn't feel like, because I was doing it as a job. I didn't really do it like thinking, oh my God, there's
So basically, in the words of Bruce Lee, you missed all that heavenly glory.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. Because I didn't really go, oh my God, it's this one's, I didn't really do it like that. I kind of just thought it's a job.
What about George Michael? I believe you choreographed his entire tour.
Well, it wasn't his tour. It was the Wembley's 1999 Wembley. So I didn't miss that heavenly glory though.
Okay.
That much, out of a lot of them, I did, but with that one, I didn't. And the reason why is that was like, it was like 50 dancers, 25 carol singers. That was when they was trying to get rid of world debt, and they had lots of different people on there. I got to meet Robbie Williams and Sting, because there was an after party and he wanted me to come. So I went there and I met all these other people. So yeah, that was most probably the hardest thing I've had to do, because when I was, in fact, when I started actually doing that choreography for that, it was actually me and Little Tim. So I've got to give props to Little Tim, because it wasn't just me, it was me and Little Tim that was choreographing it. But I think towards the end, Little Tim stepped back and just kind of just said, you know what, Colin, let me just do the routine, and you know. So I ended up really doing most of that. But he was definitely involved in that. And lots of guys that I know, and I had ended up having to sack quite a lot of dancers that were not getting the routine, because what he would do is people, they kind of hired out this kind of air hanger and kind of all done it over. He flew over his special chair. I don't know if you've seen his special chair with the...
Oh, I've not seen it.
Oh, you've not seen it? Oh, he's got this chair with all sound speakers on it and all that. Anyway, so he's got this hanger with all of that kind of stuff. And what basically happened was he had this top bit like that, and when people would be practicing, every time we'd finish, he'd have a video there, and he'd sit me down with the producer and the costume director and the people that does the makeup, and we'd all sit there, and he'd be like, you see that person? I'm not sure if they're really getting the routine. So he's the only person that I know that whenever I've choreographed something, he'd pay particular interest in everybody that was doing the routines. And at that particular stage, I actually felt that what he was actually really doing was saying to me, do you know what you're doing? So he would say things like, I think we should lose this person. What do you think, Colin? But he wouldn't sack anyone without my say so. Now, some of the times it would come to a point where someone wasn't getting it, but I'm a positive person, so in my mind I think they can get it.
It just need time.
But there wasn't much time. It was 3 weeks we had, so I was thinking. So I entered. Gosh, how many people got sacked? About 12.
So you got a lot of enemies out there now.
Haven't we all?
I know I have. Jesus, and I'm yeah, well, anyway.
Yeah, so that's how that went. But yeah, it was at Wembley. I remember standing because he didn't want anyone to film. George didn't want anyone to film the actual show. So I remember that all of the acts that performed in the front bit, you know, when you get Wembley and then there's the bit where you can stand, where you got all the photographers. He didn't want anyone, so I was the only person that was allowed in there, and I'll never forget that. So I'm there in that big bit. As soon as it came to his bit, everyone had to move, right? And then I remember standing there, just looking at the sea of people, like going, "Oh my God, there's no one here but me." It was just, and he wanted me to watch because he wanted me to give feedback of how everything went. And what happened actually was the mic cut out at some stage, and then he didn't allow them to broadcast it afterwards, and he paid some mad amount so that footage couldn't be shown when he was singing. So if you go on YouTube and you try to look up George Michael Wembley 1999, you get to see the show, you get to see the dancers, but you don't see him sing.
Oh.
Yeah, that's because he paid some astronomical amount. I heard about it afterwards that he didn't want that bit shown because his mic wasn't working. R.I.P. Mister.
So technical glitches can happen even at the biggest stages.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it happened. Yeah.
So who was your favorite one to work with out of all those three? Jamiroquai, Beverly Knight, and George Michael?
Most probably Jamiroquai.
Okay.
Yeah, most probably.
Why? Because he got the hip hop culture in a different way.
Yeah, and because he was such a good dancer. He's a really good dancer. He was such a good dancer.
It's obvious from his videos, isn't it? You just watch
I think he was but I think they all had positives in it. But if the best one to work with was definitely him. The person that was the most professional and most attentive was definitely by far George Michael, by far, because he's the only one that has ever, when I've done choreography, that sat with me and analysed each one of the dancers. That's what he used to do, talk about each one, which was incredible. I've never come across anyone that's done anything like that before.
Have you had any roles in movies before?
Yeah. So that's the Human Traffic.
Hold on, let me see if I can do the moves. Popcorn flying everywhere.
You know the funny thing about that was that it's about my character, right? My character is very much, I think, because lots of people that do robot, you tend to do everything really.
And you're still doing it.
Yeah.
Go on, keep going. In fact, answer the question while you're doing that.
Yeah, you tend to like do everything precise. So when so when I was doing that when I was doing that scene in Human Traffic, come on, bro. When I was doing that scene, imagine I've got popcorn. I'll never forget it. So I'm doing it and I'm holding it and I'm trying not to make the popcorn drop.
So why not just leave an empty popcorn thing?
No, because they wanted it to seem like you had popcorn and you were serving people.
Yeah.
So you couldn't have an empty one. So the popcorn. So I imagine I'm doing the scene, and I'm there and I'm like going like let's make sure we don't drop none of this popcorn. And we're all doing it. And I said cut. So I'm thinking, what's going on? And there's loads of people in the scene. He comes over to me and says, "Excuse me, could you just drop the popcorn? Like, you don't need to make sure none drop." It's me. Oh, right. So I'm there trying to make sure the popcorn don't drop. So we did the next one, and that's why the popcorn goes everywhere. So that's quite a funny scene. But yeah, that was really good. Justin Kerrigan films a historic film, choreographed quite a few scenes from there. Who was in it? Me, Mark, Little Tim again. I did a lot of stuff with Little Tim actually. Yeah, we went to Cardiff to a brilliant film. Funny enough, I never actually watched the full film until a couple of years afterwards. Weird. Never really watched it.
I did watch it at the time. I've just forgotten it.
Yeah, it's really
but
funny.
I do remember that scene because some parts of it reminded me of breakdance.
Yes.
That's what I remember.
You know, the weird thing about it is because now my children, one of my eldest, she always watches EastEnders. So that guy who runs the pub, what's his name? Anyway, the guy that runs the pub now, people know runs the pub there. He's actually in Human Traffic.
Okay.
Right? So, but obviously he's in it when he's quite young, and then John Sim is in it, the one from with Steve Brent, or is his name Steve Brent, from The Office. I absolutely love The Office. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
It's very, yeah. No one else from my family like it. They all look at me like, "Why do you find?" And I cry, I die, right? I die at The Office. And that guy from that, he's actually in Human Traffic film. So there's quite a few people from that film, early doors. But yeah, brilliant. I really loved working on that.
Continuing on the topic of media, you also have a radio station that you run.
Used to.
Oh, you don't do it no more?
Not really, not at the moment. The site's still up, eachteachradio.com, it's still up there. I kind of more use it for podcasting now. I think what happened, the birth of the Each Teach Radio comes from when Choice FM closed. And when Choice FM was closing, I just thought to myself, there was a lot of the presenters that were on it that I felt, you know what, I was expecting some of them to create their own radio station. They never. So I just thought, you know what, let me just try it myself. Tried it myself. We launched it. We did our 5-year anniversary. We had presenters in different countries. So I had a presenter in South Africa, Ghana, all over the UK. I had presenters. We used to have an office up in Forest Hill. We even had some presenters that you know, like my boy, don't want to touch the mic there, but Frags, he was on it as well. We had Aston, my guy that was from my crew, he was on it. Jake, there's loads of presenters that were on it. So yeah, so I did that. Most probably will kick it off again because...
So why did you stop?
Good question. I think, do you know what the reason why I stopped was? What I actually realised was, you see, like what you're doing now with 521, which I've already said big up, but I big up again. You need to be fully 100% committed to doing it. You need funding, you need X, you need Y. And when I actually created it with the mindset of having a team with me. So I had a team with me, but what I started realizing was I was doing all the heavy lifting and it was starting to break my back.
Yeah, you hear that, cameraman? I'm joking.
Yeah. And I couldn't.
I just walked out the door.
I couldn't really do it no more. So, I've got family, I've got children, and I've got other things that I'm doing as well. To do something like that, and what you realize is you've got other people. So, like, even something like this, you've got you. But when I was doing the radio station, I had like 30 presenters, some in different countries. Like, so it was all great, the idea, but suddenly you're having to manage an office with your studio. So I had all studio equipment, the broadcasting equipment. Then you'd have the person in Ghana, and they'd have to go on. And it was, to be honest, but I did it for 3-4 years. We did the anniversary last year in the Pop in Brixton. Thank you very much, Pop, Harry, respect. And we did the anniversary of that. We had some people from a Dua coin, that's a cryptocurrency that's going to be used to power the South Coast in Africa crypto city that they're building. And my partner Valentine, who's one of the architects for that, I'm pushing this all in there. But anyway, so that, when we did the anniversary, we had a big stream of him come talking about how he's doing that. So yeah, so I'm going to keep on doing that because the word each teach comes from each one teach one. And it's basically just about people, teaching each other. And the station was really a talk radio station. So if I was going to really do it again, I most probably would more mix it with music and other stuff, not just talk. But it births out of Choice FM, but I really was kind of going the direction of LBC, just purely talk. So all the presenters will just talk. Used to have a presenter about health, finance, fitness, controversy, this kind of stuff. So,
are you involved in any new ventures at all?
Yeah, so there's 2 things that I'm involved with now. One is HHA, which is Hip Hop Alliance. Big respect to Mr. Ricky Rock, who used to manage so many of them early doors, or was involved with a lot of the early doors hip hop pioneers. He was involved with Sparky, Mello, Cutmaster Swift. I remember he told me some story of how Cutmaster Swift, when he won the championships, he brought him to do X or Y with it and brought him to the place. And I remember him doing the TV show with Darnell. I think Darnell's passed away, R.I.P. Darnell. And lots of different things back in that whole Jubilee park thing with lots of people dancing. He was the one that put that on, and the competition at...
That's going back to what, 86?
That's 85, 86. So he did a lot of things. Now he's about to launch Hip Hop Alliance again. I'm involved in that.
Is that not something Chuck D's doing already with that same name?
Yes. And I think he's liaising with him because they've got the website hiphopalliance.org and he's got hiphopalliance.com. And obviously, because he was first, he has rights to that. I think he's negotiating with... Well, I don't know what's happening. Let me not comment on what's happening about hiphopalliance.com and .org. But obviously, he was first because he done it in 1984, 5.
Okay. Well, so if the dialogue is open between them, then Chuck must recognize that as well.
Of course.
Okay.
So yeah, so I'm doing that. And then my main project that I'm doing, which I've been doing for about 2 years now, which is breaking here first, but I've been doing is going to be Hip Hop Chronicles, when we're going to be documenting hip hop history within a specific library, and the library's agreed. But there's going to be some other stuff attached to that, which we're not quite yet finished. And that's around crypto, that's around NFTs. So yeah, and that's going to be liaising with Hip Hop Alliance, with Ricky, and his dream of creating Hip Hop Alliance again. Also, I'm involved in my big man, Mr. 279, who's back, who's doing Flavour of the Month. But what I'm going to be doing there, which I did for Mr. Simo from... so they did a competition called Groove Patrol. Groove? No, my memory's going. But anyway, Simon knows. Groove something. But I did the illustrations. He did it in a cinema, and I was like making sure, like you've got the screen at the back and you've got someone that's controlling all the illustrations and stuff like that. So I animated some of his stuff and I did that. So I'm looking to do that for Flavour of the Month at the O2. So I'm doing quite a lot of different things. So
you got any final words, anything you want to say, promote your crypto business?
No, don't want to promote my crypto business, no. So
I thought you were doing consultancy, so obviously if people wanted any consultants, do you not want them to come to you?
So one of the main places I do it for is the Croydon Chamber Business of Commerce. So there's a chamber, so I advise on that panel for them. So people come through specific avenues and I advise on them. So I help with DeFi, decentralized finance, NFTs, just general investing, or making your business or your company future-proof by setting up pay gateways for your crypto. But it's not a general thing, so I'm not trying to be everyone, come to me. Not like that. I'm more going through specific avenues. So people that know me and that want to do that, when they come to me, I give them advice and I help with that. But the main shout out is going out to everybody who's doing stuff in the hip hop community, because I just think there's a kind of missing link from the younger ones. And when I say younger ones, I mean like the So Solid lot and the Pay As You Go and these guys compared to us lot, because we're all trying to achieve the same goals, because I was involved with a lot of them younger guys, obviously working within youth services and all of that. And I remember some work that I did with Mega from So Solid and Swiss. And when I think of the pioneer work, especially what Swiss is doing with Black Pound Day, where he's created a whole kind of like ecosystem where people are buying from, but it's not our age group that's involved. It's kind of as systemic. I mean, us broadly speaking, not just because there might be a few individuals, because I don't want no one to say I'm involved, because I'm actually involved myself. But in regards to a collective, we're not involved like that. So, yeah, just to kind of let's try and move in tandem with what they're doing and try and galvanize our collective spirit to make sure we're doing. And I think some of the things that are going on at the moment is going to make sure that happens. So, yeah, shout out to all of those guys doing good works.
What's the biggest piece of advice you'd give anybody with all your experience that you've had?
I think the main piece of advice that I always give people is believe in yourself, trust your instincts, and make sure that you, whatever art you're doing, whatever art form you are, always go to someone that is where you want to be. In other words, do not take advice from everybody. If you want to be the top producer, it's not hard, especially now, to go online and speak with a top producer. It's not hard to speak to a top dancer. So I'd say go, follow your instincts. And if you have got any doubts, go to someone totally independent of people that you know sometimes. Get some really good advice. That's the advice I give.
Perfect. So there you have it from Colin, aka Tuway, aka DJ Tuscanny. So guys, if you'd like to find out more about him, please go follow him on all his connection pages in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, click the bell to receive the notifications, like, share, and get involved in the comment section below. Until next time, thank you for watching, and Colin, thanks again for being here, bro.
Peace
Good
out.
to see you.